Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy again. Please do consider hitting that like and that subscribe button, clicking the notification bell and selecting all, hopefully, and viewing more of my content. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the ever unfolding story of Blake Lively's lawsuit. We've got now even more information, even more confusion, if you like, because we now have, if not the subpoena itself, we have the lawsuit, the fake lawsuit, the straw lawsuit that has supposedly produced a subpoena that is kind of trying to be used retroactively to include Jen Abel's text messages from her phone into this legal case. And what's kind of really, really fascinating and so funny, really, is the fact that this high-powered law firm of Brian Friedman's, which is doing stellar work, is still behind the times when it comes down to the mummy sleuths and daddy sleuths and internet sleuths, that he's still playing catch up. You know, I guess he's like kind of on a day-to-day, he's trying to keep up with the day-to-day things of running a lawsuit, if you like, and filing things and composing things and God knows what. Meanwhile, everybody on the internet doesn't have those same restrictions and can just do investigation in a non-legal way, or whichever way gets the work done. And they're to be really applauded, people like Without a Crystal Ball and Melanie King and all of the other people that are involved. And many of them I do like and watch, but kind of I do still think there's this thing of don't go so far that you demean yourself in all of this. Sometimes there's one or two people that I just think, oh, you're doing yourself a disservice here. Let's not get into hate and, rage bait or whatever you want to call it. Because none of this should be about building up a groundswell or momentum of hate, if you like. It's like, let's just get to the truth. Let's get Justin Baldoni his life back. Let's allow him to be able to come back to LA and get back to making movies and all of the rest of it. But it is quite staggering how complex this case has become and how much more involved than we ever really believed it could be. But it is so easy to read more into it than possibly there is, and try and figure out more conspiracies than there is too. I think if you start going down the route of what is Van Zandt about, what is, this address where all of these companies are registered to, what can we make of that, what conspiracy can we make out of that, I think you to really tread carefully and not lose sight of what really matters here, which is really just clearing Justin Baldoni's name, getting rid of this SH slur that is hanging over his head. It is very interesting now at this point that Blake Lively's side aren't really talking about SH at all, and the kind of glaring thing over this fake lawsuit, if you like, and all of these does, these mysterious does that were the target of it. The most interesting thing in a way is that it's clear that they weren't, none of it was to do with SH, that the whole thing is really about Blake Lively's reputation and her not liking what happened in terms of her own interviews, her own way of marketing. It ends with us were her downfall. So what it stems down to is she didn't like the character attack that came from the general public, based off things that she'd actually said and done. So the public was completely justified in forming an opinion of her based off the back of that, and her not liking that, and her having to come up with somebody who was responsible for all of that it couldn't possibly be her. But what I just wanted to touch on today, not to get into the legalities of it and such, because there are so many people that are covering this thing from the thread to the needle, but I just wanted to, it's like clear, like I think this week they claim or they reckon that both Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman will be subpoenaed, which we knew was going to come anyway, but it seems like supposedly it will happen this week. So that could prove to be interesting. So I just wanted to go over my thoughts on the two of them and kind of reiterate to you that all of these people involved in this, we all only make judgments based on our own interpretation of the facts and our own gut instinct reaction to whether we like these people or whether we don't like these people or whether we like their songs or their movies or what they say in public. And our opinions are based off of our own experiences in life and the way we choose to see the world and the way we interpret the world. That's why, you know, we can never, that's why we tend to torture ourselves with not being able to figure out why other people can't think like us, you know, and why can't they just do what I would do in that situation and that scenario. It's because their whole life experience is entirely different to yours. No two people can have exactly the same life experience, and no two people can be exactly in agreement with each other at any given time. So what I say and what I will hold out my hands wholeheartedly and say is that my opinion, my interpretation is my own, and I'm open to being proved wrong down the line. You know, would definitely hold up my hands to that. But yeah, so my gut feeling, I mean, I've pretty much always liked Taylor Swift and always liked Hugh Jackman. So this is kind of interesting scenario for me to have to question, you know, people that I'm elevating in my own mind, what their actions are, what their thoughts are. Does this change my perspective on them, whatever it is? And I've always had a gut instinct not so keen on Ryan Reynolds, and part of that is his style of everything having to be about humour and snark and not being able to answer a straight question. But just my gut instinct reaction to his face even is that, which that can be a very unfair thing, obviously. But we all do have this thing, don't we, where we have gut instinct reactions to people's faces, or, you know, our eyes are always looking for threat everywhere, or what our eyes tend to look for what we do want, don't like, rather than what we do like. We're always looking for that threat or things that just make us feel uncomfortable or creepy or whatever it is. So I've always found a bit, you know, Ryan a bit like that, really. Like, I just, you know, his films weren't my cup of tea and all of that. I wouldn't have watched, you know, I've watched Deadpool at times when I was just desperate to watch for something to watch. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine because Hugh Jackman was in it, really, and I like Wolverine. Blake Lively, I've never wildly thought one way or the other. I've always kind of admired like some of her outfits on the red carpet and stuff like that, but I've never kind of clocked her much as an actress. It would never be, oh, there's a new Blake Lively movie, I must watch it, or anything like that. But I've always found it kind of interesting in a way. Well, she's physically beautiful. It's interesting to look at something beautiful, you know, and analyse the dresses and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. But yeah, Taylor and Hugh. So my feeling about Taylor is that she was just being a good friend. That is my feeling. So at the time, I guess she would have either, over the period that this was all going on, she would have either been in the Eras tour, prepping for the Eras tour, rehearsing the Eras tour, in rest periods during the Eras tour. There was a lot going on in her own life during that period. She'd split from Joe Alwyn. She was writing Tortured Poets Department. She was slotting that in amongst everything else. In amongst all of that, she started dating Travis. I don't know the exact timeline, but we know for sure there was an awful lot going on in Taylor Swift's life during that time. So was she all over this movie like Blake Lively would try and have you believe? I don't think so. I don't think she would have had the time. I think, like anybody that's friends with somebody, you're interested in what they're doing and you want to support them, so you might chip in on something that they asked your opinion on, like a bit of script that they'd written or supposedly written, because Ryan might have written it for all we know. But you know what I mean? I think she would have chipped in on that. I think if Blake went to her and said, "Can I use my tea as Ricochet in this movie?" I think Taylor would have, yeah, that's great. You know, I mean, it's all good for her, isn't it? The song being used in the movie, it's no real skin off her. No, she doesn't need the money that comes from it or whatever that is. It's just, why not if you want it? Yeah, I do not think that Taylor Swift has said you can have that song, but you have to boot your composer off your movie, because I'm not having him. Because we discovered over this composer, there's no real connection to Taylor Swift. There's no harm back there somehow where Taylor Swift might have some rift with this guy or anything like that to want to boot him off a movie. And my feeling about Taylor is she's a hard-working woman who has put productions together from start to finish. She's directed things, she's produced things, you know, she's styled things, if you like. I cannot see her, with the best will in the world, dictating things on a movie that is almost finished, almost in the can. Things are almost complete, like the composition of that movie was complete. I cannot see a scenario where no matter what happened, she would say, you have to boot that guy off and cost that movie all that much money in order to bring somebody else on. I just can't see that. No matter what you think about Taylor Swift, I can't see that, because as a woman who has got herself, I mean, yes, she had a good family, Taylor Swift, she had a good supportive family, but for the most part, Taylor Swift is where she is because she's worked hard, she's surrounded herself with good people, and for the most part, I feel like she's tried to do the right thing. She treats her employees well, she gives to charity a lot, she gives of her time. So I cannot see, and I also can't see a scenario where if she truly believed that her friend had been SH, that she wouldn't have come out and said something. As somebody that's been through a legal case where she was SH'd, or SA'd really, if you like, that guy put his hand up Taylor's skirt and she had to go to court over that, I cannot see that she would be acting in the way that she is right now and keeping silent and all of that if she genuinely thought harm had been done to Blake Lively. I think she's just been scooped up in Blake Lively's vision of what Blake Lively's life is. I'm not sure Blake Lively really understands what reality is. I think a lot of these times when you've seen Blake Lively talk about Taylor Swift, a lot of that is pie in the sky. It's just nonsense that comes out of Blake Lively's mouth. I don't think there's an awful lot of reality to it. I'm not saying that Taylor Swift is this perfect person. We all do things, and especially when we're friends with people, we all do things that can be a bit questionable, or get a bit he said, she said, and this was wrong, and I should get my own back, and all of that. We can all be guilty of that as human beings, but I cannot see that she's dictated, you must have this Isabella Ferrer in the movie, she's the one that should be cast. Yes, you can have my tea as Ricochet, but you have to fire the composer. I cannot see Taylor as a business person that knows about deadlines and getting things done and costs and financing, that she has imposed that on that movie. I think she's been spun a whole story, not even necessarily about SH when all of this was going on. I think she's possibly been spun a story about Blake was being given all of this control to make decisions and all of this, that Justin was somehow handing it off to her to do, or giving her that creative freedom. I believe there's probably a story back there. So I don't really feel like Taylor Swift has anything to fear from a deposition. I mean, it will be highly uncomfortable, because if she has to hand over text messages and the rest of it, I mean, nobody wants to hand over the text messages, do they? Because we're all going to say things in text messages that, you know, texting is always weird anyway, isn't it? Because you're not hearing somebody's tone of voice and all of that while they're doing it. You know, I, like any of you out there, will have occasionally offended somebody by text message because you're not hearing the tone of voice, you're not looking at somebody's eyes while you know what I mean. you're not seeing the context around it, if you like. That is the problem with texting. And like I say, like most friends, she's probably said things that can be twisted any old kind of way based off of whatever Blake is telling her about the situation. But I suspect during all of this that Blake hasn't mentioned that she felt like she was sexually harassed. She's possibly told Taylor Swift that she felt uncomfortable from time to time. But again, I just don't buy that Taylor has had the time to be heavily involved in all of this, because when she wasn't doing something to do with the Eras tour, she would have literally been quite exhausted and probably just resting or exercising or just completely shutting off in order to just recover. You know, that's the way she's managed to do this show, is she's had to be really careful about her downtime and rest periods and such and such. So that's my feeling about Taylor. And about you, I'm actually more troubled by you than I am anything else. And I think it's because he's always been presented as the good guy and the good-natured guy and the kind guy, treats everybody the same and all of this. So his friendship with Ryan has always slightly troubled me a little bit. But I also feel like Ryan's kind of groomed you. You know, at the time they became friends, you was definitely superior to Ryan in terms of career. I mean, what would Ryan Reynolds be without Deadpool, really? And when did Deadpool first turn up in a movie? It was in X-Men Origins Wolverine, wasn't it? Not in, you know, not in the most comic book accurate form, if you like, but that's where it started off. But you, it's like, well, if he is genuinely this kind person, this open-minded person, this person who wouldn't hurt other people, why is he on board with what's going on with Justin Baldoni? And why did he take part in some of the things that he has? And it's like, because you, surely there's a question in Hugh Jackman's mind when he's attending things like the It Ends With Us premiere, and where's the director? You know, why is this more about me, Ryan, Blake, Gigi Hadid, and whoever else than it is the director? Where's the director and the male lead actor? Where's Hugh Jackman thinking, would I like this if this was done to me? You know, so what story has he been spun? And A, what is he choosing not to, A again, B, what is he choosing not to question? That's what bothers me, is that why wasn't there alarm bells and thinking, is this right? Has Blake really been SH'd by this guy? But if so, why wasn't she going to her agent? Why wasn't she going to Sony? Why wasn't she raising a HR complaint? You know what I mean? If anybody that's truly a good person, an open-minded person, a person that chooses to see all sides, a person that's knowledgeable in the industry, why are they hearing stories and not thinking there seems to be a million holes in this story? It just doesn't make sense. So my feeling about you is, why is he just believing, or is he just believing everything that Ryan Reynolds and Blake says? But I'm really kind of discouraged by him taking part in that weird promo, you know, where they had it was a setup which we now know that Blake Lively actually directed, where they were interviewing Brendan Sklenar as part of some kind of weird maximum effort promo for It Ends With Us, and he had Ryan interviewing him and Ryan's mum and Hugh Jackman, and they were all wearing, there's all these pictures of them, isn't there, in the matching cardigans. So what's the weird snarky subtext to the cardigans? What's that about? Is it mocking Justin? Did Justin and his friends on It Ends With Us, Jamie Heath, did they have matching cardigans or something like that? Is there some weird skit about that? And again, if so, why is Hugh Jackman taking part of it? You know, my feeling about you is that he's a kind person. So as a kind person, if you're a genuinely kind person, even when people have done wrong, you never go so far off base that you completely change who you are. You know what I mean? You can be a kind person and recognise that somebody has done wrong and not completely turn on them and try and eviscerate them and mock them and humiliate them and take part in bullying and ganging up on people and mocking them in public in a weird, snarky, subterfugeous, if that's a word, way. It really bothers me if all that we think is true, why Hugh is on the set of Deadpool and Wolverine and hearing all of these snarky things that are clearly, if he didn't truly know that they were about Justin Baldoni, why wasn't he saying, Ryan, I don't get this joke, what's it about? Why are we talking about intimacy coordinators? What is this? What are we doing? I don't understand the joke. And so I have to think he was in on the joke. And it's like I say, if he's in on the joke, does he truly believe the story? And if he truly believes the story, then he has to go down in my estimation, because you have to be looking at that. If you're in that inner circle, you have to be thinking there's a lot wrong with that story, that so many things don't add up. Surely you wouldn't just take what Blake and Ryan were saying at face value and go down that route with them and do all of these things that he's been a party to. Hugh Jackman, the kind of man that I thought he was, would have gone down to that basement and talked to Justin Baldoni and asked what were going on. That's my feeling. That's the person that I would have thought Hugh Jackman was. That wouldn't exclude people if they had made a mistake, say. That would want to peacemake or find a way around it in order not to have awkwardness and not to have people feel isolated or bullied. So the things that he's taken part in, I have a real problem. Because Taylor's different, isn't it? We're not seeing Taylor's face all over this thing. We've seen Hugh Jackman's face all over this thing, and that is what troubles me about you. And I found it quite upsetting, really, because I don't want Hugh Jackman to be a bad guy in all of this. I don't really want anybody to be a bad guy in all of this. But yeah, that is my feeling on Blake, on Hugh, and on Taylor. So it's just a shame we can't have all the juicy details of the deposition, isn't it? That we can't watch it live, and all of that. But yeah, it kind of really raises questions about these people that I think I know, that I think I've got a handle on who they are, what they're like. We really don't know. We never truly know each other. We never truly know what goes on in each other's minds. But yeah, at this point in time, I'm more troubled by you than I am by Taylor. Even if Taylor has done everything that some people would like to think that Taylor has done, I'm still more troubled by Hugh. And because, like I say, Taylor, with her knowledge of her industry and making videos and all of that, and use knowledge of the industry and all of that and what it takes to do these things, she's chosen not to be all over it in terms of, here's my face, this is me chipping in, I'm going to take part in meanness, and I'm going to do this with you, and I'm going to do weird things with weird subtext that only a small handful of us will know is about targeting that person. Taylor hasn't been doing that. She's been off living her own life, doing her own thing. Hugh has been taking part in all of that. So the question is, did he do it with knowledge, or did he do it without knowledge? But if he was doing it without knowledge, he's been doing it in chosen ignorance, in my opinion. He's chosen not to look at it deeper than he should have done. So either way, that's problematic to me, because you don't just go along with things people are telling you when there's another side of the story, And it would be really problematic to me that if he's just taken Blake at face value, telling him that she's been SH'd and not asking her in what manner, in what way, What did you do about it? Did you go to your agent? Did you go to Sony? Did you raise a HR complaint? What did he say to you when you challenged him on it? Because we all know Blake Lively is not a wallflower. She has no problem speaking up, putting her foot down, walking onto a set and saying, this might be your plan, but this is what I'm doing. That is not a woman that keeps quiet on a set, you know, with her legs in stirrups, claiming to just have a fig leaf over her private parts as she's trying to claim. This is not a woman that would do that and be abused in any way. You know, she'd put her foot down over imaginary abuse. So you're not telling me Hugh Jackman doesn't know that about her and knows that he's been in relationships with Blake and Ryan long enough that he should know that he has to question things that definitely her at least tells him. He might have more faith in Ryan. It really troubles me about you. That is my feeling about it. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it all. And like I said, I am happy if down the road, you know, or anything that I've said here is proven wrong, because we can all only ever make a judgment on what we know at any given time. And we have to remind ourselves that what we think and what we believe is just a story that we've come up with in our own minds. So what I'm telling you here, saying to you here, is not fact. It's just a story in my own head, and that's what all of us do in life. But I just wanted to update you with, this is my feelings on it right now. What are your feelings? You can drop a comment below. What are your feelings on Taylor and you? Your gut instinct. What does your gut instinct tell you? And please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing if you're enjoying this debate. I am still trying to look at it in terms of what we learn about ourselves, not in villainizing people, but in just holding up a mirror to ourselves and examining the mystery of human relationships and the kinds of things we do to each other by not coming at each other in a loving, accepting, generous manner, which we all should be doing. So anyway, yeah, see you again soon. Thank you for watching.